Attention, please. How about that?
I could have done that. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting for May 15, 2007. I didn't see, is Bobby here? Please stand for invocation. Okay, Mr. Councilperson Ellis, if you would lead us in our invocation.
Let us pray. Most gracious God, we thank you for continuing to guide us, to strengthen us, to be with us. Lord, we invite you in. We invite you to control our hearts, our minds, and our thoughts. And Lord, as we are asking these things, we also ask that you take care of Scotty, guide him, strengthen him, heal him, send your healing mercies to him, and give us the wisdom to do what is best for the city of Jeffersonville and its people. Lord, we thank you. We love you. We praise you. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Councilperson White.
Present.
Councilperson Sostovny.
Present.
Councilperson Yon.
Present.
Councilperson Hawkins.
Here.
Council President Gill.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Ellis.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 8 council members are present. Councilperson Maples is excused.
Okay, thank you. And just a little update on Councilperson Maples. He was released from the hospital today, so let's hope that no more setbacks and he's on his way to healing. Can I have the approval of the minutes for our regular proceedings of May 1st, 2017?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Abstained due to an absence.
Okay, got one abstention. Okay, we need a approval of the agenda, and I will say that Nathan Pruitt contacted me. He is number 13 on the list. He's requesting that be tabled again, so we accept the agenda, have it tabled. He wants to take it back to planning and zoning. He will bring that back to us sometime in June.
Do we want to remove it or table it?
Well, we assigned a number to it, so we can remove it?
I mean, you can just vote, you can make a
What-
motion to
okay.
remove 2017 OR to 24 from the table.
Be a separate motion, though, if you want to remove it.
So moved.
As last time we was talking, we had the conversation. They're subject to that, the time frame. So he needs, Mr. Pruitt, and I'm sure
Okay.
Les will make that clear to him. He needs to be aware the time frame is clicking.
Okay. So I got a motion and a second for removal of that agenda item. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, I need a motion for what's the amended agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Claims to be approved. Heather Metcalf. General first, please. I did go through claims. Before we start, though, there's a line item that I'm not familiar with that I see. What is when did we add business meals and entertainment?
That was about a month ago we discussed that. It was to take care of the things like local issues that are within the 50-mile radius. So at Christmas time, I know that the sanitation department buys hams and turkeys and things like that. And also if lunches are within this area to do with business type meals and things like that.
This in lieu of setting up, we hope this will satisfy the paperwork for towns.
Okay.
Yeah.
This in lieu of setting up a promotional fund for every department, which we didn't want to make that ordinance.
Okay.
So
Okay. And then when I was reviewing the credit card claims, I brought this up in other meetings. Sales tax, I know that you all give that out. We need to really watch that. Some of it is not significant when you get $20 sales tax on lumber that we're buying from Lowe's. They need to address that.
Yes.
And also, we really follow our travel ordinance on the meals because they're going over. I don't know if they're several of them are using their $50 or what, but we gotta watch that, plus the tip.
Yes.
Now, our ordinance says 20% tip, so this is my opinion, I want your all's opinion. 20%, if that's gonna be on the card, that's fine. If they wanna tip more than that, it's my personal opinion, then they tip, that's not for the taxpayers because go by our ordinance. If they wanna tip higher than that, I feel it should be from their pocket. That's just my opinion.
Do we have an indication that they've been tipping more than 20%?
They've been
There
paying
was
more
a
than-
claim in this last credit card that was for more than a 20% tip, yes.
So,
And if it's-
I know there's not really the policy is no more than 20%, but that's just, I think, handling it here on out, but I'm one of 9, so.
Sounds like the ordinance is pretty clear, so I mean, if they want to personally pay more tip, then it just needs to be done separately, but not
Yes.
charged with.
Sounds good.
And I think,
We'll
will that
reiterate
be
that at
fine if
our
we just have the minutes
department head
reflect that we've got, okay, all right. Okay, other than that, the other claims were fine, so I'll turn it over to you.
Some of those claims that were more than the $50 were actually reimbursed by the employee also. So the original charge
I
was
don't
on
know
the...
that, I just see
Right.
I seen a claim for $100 and some, and I didn't know if it was one, whatever,
Right,
so.
So Heather, you feel like the travel ordinance is being followed?
yes,
For the most part?
yes.
Do you think any changes need to be made to it?
Not this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And we intend to go back on the travel ordinance.
Mhm. But every time a credit card is handed out, a tax exempt form is also handed out and reiterated to the person who's getting that card, but that might not be the same person that's charging on the card.
I'm just bringing it up because we've been flagged by
Yes.
state board accounts numerous times, so I just want to hold our feet to the fire on
Yep.
this.
I do have a question for Les. I was thinking, we talked about this once before, about the different house accounts. Is that something you guys
Yes.
thought you're handling, or you are going to
Well,
handle?
I mean, we assumed it was handled evidently, police they do not have house accounts.
At Menards and Lowe's, yeah.
Home Depot, so if they're gonna, my advice is if they're gonna use Lowe's and ours on a regular basis, maybe
Sure.
don't have a house account.
Okay, and I'd mentioned to Heather, can we not just have a city account? Maybe I need to look at you, not the attorney, but just a city account. I'll use an example, Lowe's, for Lowe's, for the city of Jeff, and then no matter what department goes there, they just put their department down and have the authorization to do it. Instead of saying, oh, I can't go there, I got to have the credit card because I don't have a charge there.
It's a little bit difficult when just keeping track of the different bills if different departments are doing it. That's why it's kind of been departmentalized.
Okay.
So, but we'll definitely make sure that the word's out there.
Oh, and the last thing, I forgot to bring it up, a couple of the claims out of general wasn't the original invoice.
Okay,
So
I'll put that
any of
down
you
too.
remind- We need the originals with those claims, so, okay. We have a total amount of $700,869.74. You don't have no hand carries or
Have
any?
any changes? No.
Okay.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Let's move on to parks claims.
Parks is $49,112.54. And I don't have any changes on that I
All
know
those
of.
claims were in order. I was really pleased with parks claims.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Report of the clerk.
I just have one quick thing. I had received from a law firm, why it was sent in care of me, I don't know, about a suit, city's being possibly a lawsuit. And I had contacted the legal department, and they're responding to it, but I have yet to get a letter of the response, so just wanted to let you all know.
Do you have anything further than that?
Then turn over our insurance.
Then we will move on to unfinished business, and we'll have a public hearing, but it is the 2017 OR 20, an ordinance of additional appropriation that we did pass on first and second.
There's been no changes.
Okay. So unless anybody has a question, I know you weren't here. Do you have a question?
What's the total on that ordinance? Do you have a total?
Oh, I had that last time, I'm sorry. Close to 100 for the accrued benefits, 100,000. And then the very last one that was for parks was to appropriate the UEZ money that they received for their third of Hamhead Security Pros. And
Yeah, that was where they paid the contract in full to save the city money, and so the other entities reimbursed them.
And we did, this is with the, like, percentage that we pay for.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it was broken down by percentage.
Great.
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to open a public hearing.
Yep.
This time, I'm going to officially open public hearing. Excuse me. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak on ordinance 2017 OR 20? It's an additional appropriation ordinance for our accrued benefits for buyback of vacation time, correct? Okay, seeing none, I'm officially closing public hearing, and I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve 2017 OR 20 on the third and final.
Got a motion, got a second?
Question.
Oh, okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Any questions, comments?
So should we expect that these numbers will be in the budget moving forward?
I would expect that, yes.
Do our department heads understand that we should be putting those in now?
Yes,
As I know there was some confusion.
yes,
I would not be in favor of coming back and doing this after the fact next year again.
I agree. Mhm.
Okay. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Heather. Next is item number 11, which is the 2017 R4. It's resolution approving collective bargaining agreement between the City of Jeff and the local 558. And tonight we do have the President Joe Hurt here. If anybody has any questions for him, but I will turn it over to Larry for right now.
So as we discussed at the last meeting, your options obviously are to vote to adopt the provision, the resolution of the ordinance, that the contract was provided to you by the negotiating team, or you can vote not to accept that, and of course I guess the next option will be that you all would go back to negotiations. And the thing I always emphasize, and I always want you to understand and remember, is that tonight's action on the resolution, if you adopt the resolution adopting that agreement that was negotiated, the mayor still has the final opportunity to sign the contract. And I will say again that it's my observation that the issues of money and things that cost the city money are the matters that you all always have the ability to make a determination about, regardless of the mayor's determination. And all the other matters that involve what I call operating procedures are things that are executive in nature and obviously are the chief's. So the mayor can bind everyone on a contract that you all approve or not, and that's his choosing. And there are items that you all negotiated that involve things of operations that are things if the contract is entered to, everybody's going to follow, but it's not necessarily something that is always a part of a contract negotiated by the fiscal body for a binding effort for the executive body. And I'm just telling you that only because I think it's important for you to understand those things. You guys have put together a contract, you negotiated hard. I've read it. I wasn't privy to the negotiations, but I can tell you is each of the provisions in there contain language that I believe gets to the answer that we're negotiating with everyone. But again, not being there, I can't tell you if the answer that each one of them provides is what you wanted. But I can tell you, they get to a conclusion in each one of those. I know that Scott and I spent a lot of time sitting around going through the computer, and I hatcheted a whole lot of formatting, but I think we got that. So it's up to you all. I guess if there's any questions from the body about issues, then Mr. Hurt is, then what is your rank?
I'm the union president.
Sergeant Hurt is here to address any of the questions that anyone that wasn't involved in the process has.
Sure, yeah. Gladly.
I have reached out to all the council members. I've spoke with most everyone, I think.
but I'll gladly field any questions that anybody may or may not have.
Anybody have any questions?
Sergeant, Mr. Wilder mentioned that some of the things that we're going to pass in the contract has to do with administrative policy, and at the fire department that would come from the chiefs and the administration. They were pretty involved in everything that you all did, right? And everybody seems to...
I don't think we've probably ever had a negotiation process that involved the chief so much. I think we hammered it out from the get-go with the administration so that it wasn't, let's the union talk to the council and then we have to go bounce it off the administration, see what the chief thinks. We were all on the same page throughout the entire negotiation, so I don't think there was ever an issue.
No, I was involved from the beginning. I think it's a great contract that promotes training, professionalism, advancement. I think it also promotes self-investment in retirement opportunities. Also promotes the HSA program, which would be good for the city. And also strengthens some of my management holds on either elongated sick leave, which we've experienced over the last 5 years in some different scenarios. So I think it's a good contract, and I've certainly have been involved in the whole process.
I know that there's been some questions about the rising cost of health care. So just for full disclosure, I do want both of you all to let the non-negotiating members know that we have talked about that. I've talked about it with the chief. That's why we're going to continue with the insurance committee, so we keep a close eye on those costs. And if it ever does become an issue, if we can't sustain it, we can sustain this contract, or we get to where things are tight, you all are agree that we are going to discuss all this in insurance committee meetings, and we're going to take a hard good look at the numbers.
Sure. I know there was discussion about the rising cost in healthcare, and I know that recently it had been brought up that there were some new unforeseen costs, but I don't believe that to be true because I am involved with the insurance committee. I think some people may be just finding out about some costs, but as a collective bargaining agent, we saw the rise in health care, which is why we talked about the high deductible health care plan. That's why we've talked about the seed money. We brought Humana actually into the table so that there was an independent agency. Actually, the actuaries that work for Humana put the numbers together for the city to show if we can get folks to switch to the high deductible health care plan, not only do they benefit, the city will benefit in the long run, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, yeah, absolutely. We were very conscientious of the rising healthcare cost.
Thank you. Anybody have any other questions, concerns?
I appreciate the work of the committee. You guys put in long hours, and along with your team, Joe. I thought it went excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have some comments. I don't have any questions for them, but I have some comments.
Okay.
All right. And I put some information on everybody's in front of everybody here. You know, I think that what I'm going to talk about just briefly is what health insurance costs, and that's because the contracts, fire and police contracts, set the basis for the city for what kind of benefits are provided and at what cost. There's talk about savings as firefighters and police officers retire, and I think there's some misinformation about that, and also costs associated with an aging pool of participants, and that's the same challenge every city has and every company has. But I included with everybody this report called Go Health, and it talks about the difference in cost of premium between a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, 50-year-old, and 60-year-old. So when you look at a plan like the city has, and we say the average cost for a family plan for the city for the premium is $19,920. That doesn't mean what that is, that's a blended plan. So when you have a 20-year-old who has a family, we hire them, really the true cost is close to $11,000. And when we have a 60-year-old on a family plan, the cost is $55,000. And that's because older folks have more claims and have more problems. And that's what that report will say. And as our aging employees and as we have retirees on the plan, we're skewing more towards those higher costs. When you look at the city health insurance over the years, from 2013, it was $4.4 million worth of health care expenditures. 2016, which is the last year we have completed, was over $7 million. So there's been an increase of $2.5 million. And if you look during those 3 years, it was a 56% increase, or it averaged a 16% increase. Those are some big numbers. So I looked at, okay, if these trends continue, and I know we have a new health savings account plan, and I do hope it reduces costs, but if the trends continue, what we're looking at in 2020 with this contract is our health insurance expenditures will be $12,700,000. That's just the math if the trend continues. And so the question's going to be, and during that, over that time, we're going to be paying $10 million more during that time than we do in 2017. So how are we going to get the money to pay this increase? Because that increase is 16%, and our revenue increases, our levy increase and what we get in other funding is nowhere near 16% a year. So I think that it's a challenge that it makes me nervous looking at the trend lines, and that's what I try to do, is look at the trend line. So what do we do about it, or what can we do about it? Well, what we need to do about it, I think, as we see the trends, since we know now what the costs, what the trend is the last 3 years, and probably going to continue, we need to make changes. Well, with this contract, the team's already negotiated everything. Everybody negotiated in good faith, so this opportunity has passed. And I respect the time and effort of the negotiating team as for the fire department as well as for the city council. So I'm going to support this contract, but I hope that we can put together a team before the next contract to address health insurance costs, because I really believe that the costs are going to be higher than we think, because our aging pool of participants is going to increase at accelerating rate, the number of claims, and therefore the premium that we pay. You have to realize we are on a self-funded plan, so if our claims increase, we pay more than projected. We pay more than we budget. If claims decrease, that's great. We could have a windfall, but with an aging pool, that generally doesn't happen. It usually accelerates the costs. So, like I said, I gave some.
Are you suggesting a team outside of our insurance committee? Because that's out in our contract, and that is members from collective bargaining, that is in the health, that is members of the mayor's office, they have appointments, we have appointments.
I think we need to continue in good faith with participants, with the fire, with the police, and with the council, and the administration to start working on it now. Because I would hate for us to wake up in 2019 or 2020 when the next contract's due and we're in a world of hurt and we're not in a position of financial strength. We are now. We can see the trend lines. Unless they change, I think we're going to be, long term, it's not sustainable. Short term, we are able to do this, but if the trend lines continue, at some point, we're going to have to go into reserves. We're going to have to use more edit. We're going to have to use more load funds.
Do we know, can we identify what factors contributed to the 27.5% increase in 2014?
I believe that's when we changed the insurance plan, wasn't it?
Yeah, some of it was part of it is that we have a growing workforce after annexation, and we have an aging workforce, and we also have a larger pool of retirees. So everything's working to increase, and just overall.
Curious. That was a very large.
Health insurance costs increase even if everything else stays the same.
Oh, yeah.
There's more prescription drugs available at higher costs. So even if everything stayed the same, health care costs have increased just because of inflation.
And we brought those concerns up even in the current contract that they have now. That's why we started the insurance committee, so we can keep an eye on the numbers. And like I said, I stressed it in both contract negotiations, and they all agreed that they're going to have participation there, and we will keep an eye on all of that. And they don't want to hurt the city any more than we want to hurt the city, so I really feel that we can move forward, acting in good faith, and really address this issue and get out in front of it so it doesn't become a problem by the end of this contract or next negotiations. So, anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I would just comment that the way I process things, I try to look down the road. As Ed mentioned, we have the money in our funds to pay for this year. It's more than our revenue we're bringing in this year. We're already going in the additional appropriations that we did earlier is going into that pot of money that we have in our funds. And I try to look down the road. We know that the administration has talked about the need for additional workers, whether it's police or fire or sanitation workers. We got our city's big and it's growing, and we have a limited amount of money, and to me, if we know that in 2 years, 3 years, we're going to be going into our reserves at a rapid pace, I feel like that's kicking the can down the road on the next group, and I don't like to do that personally. And if you're going to try to negotiate or work something out with folks, it feels like the best time to do that is when everybody's wanting the contract, not approve a contract and then say, okay, we're going to talk about this again in a year, when there's less of an incentive other than wanting to try to do what's right by the city, but there's less of an incentive to do that. And so that's just the frustration or the thing that I have, is trying to look as the city's looking to grow and we have a limited amount of dollars. I hate to go into those dollars, this year and next year, and like everybody said, we know we're going to have to. And so that's just one point of view.
And I understand your frustration and concern, because you weren't on the negotiation team, but I will say, and the ones that were, speak up, because both police and fire, they did their homework. Joe, did you not meet with Humana and put numbers together and look at our insurance costs? Did you not consult with HR and all, even before we start negotiations?
Yeah, the numbers aren't easy. They're way above my head and maybe not Councilman Z's head, but they're tough, and that's why you have to bring in the actuaries, because you can guess, right? It's guessing game. This is how much insurance was this year. We guess it's going to be this much next year. And there are some variables that weren't discussed on the trend you were speaking of. There were some catastrophic events that you didn't bring up that certainly contributed to the increase in cost. We've implemented AHS. We're talking about bringing in other groups to go in with us on AHS, and we've talked about the seed money for the high deductible plan, which I've got members here tripping over themselves to get signed up, come up with enrollment, because it's a good deal for us and it's a good deal for the city, and that's what Humana was able to explain to everybody. So yeah, I mean, we've been thinking about this the whole time. So.
Okay, I appreciate it. I just want the members to know that we have talked about that, and that your concern is the same as ours, and that we will continue on talking now, and we'll set up an insurance committee meeting and keep a close eye on all of this.
Thanks.
I appreciate Councilman Samuel's concerns, and those are some of the same concerns that I had. I personally think that as this continues, as we go through this contract, that our non-negotiables as the city are going to change as we get more information and as we can get a better grasp on the trends and how this is moving. So I'm happy to see that we're taking steps to have everyone at the table with an insurance committee, and that we're acknowledging that this could be a potential of something we need to address the next contract period. And I mean, I'm supporting this contract because I think it's the right thing to do right now, and I think if the situation changes, we can readdress it then.
And at this point, I think everybody has probably made up your mind on where you stand, whether you vote or not, so I'm not trying to convince anybody. But I did want to bring up a couple things, and they're related to each other. Let me start with I guess the bad first. I've told people individually, I might have even said it at a meeting, but I want to reiterate it, and I really want this contract lasts until after the next election. So it takes it out of the election cycle. We shouldn't be negotiating contracts. Nobody wants to hear that because the mayor doesn't want to do it, and they don't want the mayor to do it. And there's good reasons why we shouldn't. One, we are not their employers, and we're not Heather's employer. We're not anybody's employer. So that changes our position when we're dealing with collective bargaining groups. Two, I am not a fireman. Thank God that Chief and Joe worked it all out, because if there were 200 changes maybe to the wording of the contract, and we can't be in a position we can't be expected to be an expert in how to be a fireman.
Like that's beyond what is reasonable. And three, the most important reason, working with Joe was sometimes even I would even deem it a pleasure. Our teams got along good. They brought food sometimes. We were out, and he even bought me a beer. That might have been illegal. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. But it was good. It was as good as it could be in a very tense situation, and yet it took us months to do. In that time of taking months, the goalposts move. We got hit with our Lowittville being freezed. We got hit with our insurance going up $1.5 million. We got good news in that we don't have to pay their 2% towards their, so when it starts taking this long time, even though we're going in good faith, it's very difficult. So I am going to, if I'm here or whoever's here, I would recommend to the next council that we should not be taking this on. And it has nothing to do with the way these negotiations went. They went as good as could be expected. And saying that, I've never felt, I do schools negotiations, or I did for 8 years. I've never felt like we were all pulling on the same end of the rope as much as I did with these guys. Like, they already had talked to Chief. They brought us, they explained it. Chief came in, I think, 2 or 3 times and explained things to us. And even though it went as good as it could possibly go, I still don't think we should do it. Moving forward, I think you should vote for this contract, but I don't think we should, going forward, I don't think we should be the ones doing it. So I thought, I wanted to make sure that was, my position was clear.
Okay.
One last thing.
Okay.
It's very rare that we have this many members of the fire department with us in a council meeting. So I just want to take a minute and thank you guys. I mean, we have, and to the rest of the council members, we have a quality fire department that you don't see in the area. I mean, we have guys who have traveled overseas to play ball. We have guys that have been volunteer firemen, in their communities before they had the opportunity to come here. We have guys that have master's degrees. And we have people who have dedicated 30 plus years and are still going. And I think that's something unique for Jeffersonville, at least the quality of guys that we have. And you all are appreciated, and what you do is appreciated. And I think everybody up here echoes what Scott said about negotiations going so well with Chief and Sergeant Hurt. We really appreciate your all's dedication. So I'll make a motion we pass resolution, 17R4.
Second.
So I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion, questions, or concerns?
Madam President, if I could, I would first like to thank the negotiating team, and in particular, Councilman Hawkins. We laid on him pretty heavily during the process because of his experience with the school corporation, and he's really behind getting the wording together and crunching the numbers and making sure they were right. And so I wanted to publicly let people know that you did even more than the team did in making sure that this came together. So thank you for that work.
Yeah, thanks, Dustin.
My position is that the public safety is the fundamental reason why cities exist. You have the police and the fire, you have the sewer, the streets, and if all of our budget has to go to support them and to make sure we have the best departments in the state of Indiana, then I'm for that. If the health costs increase, then when you have people that are putting their personal safety at risk every day as a part of their job for 20 plus years, and then they retire and they receive an additional benefit, then I think it's perfectly reasonable and right that we continue to insure them to the best of our ability. If we ever come to the fork in the road where we have to increase the retirees' premiums or not do it, then we will know that based on the numbers. But unless such a time, I don't think that should ever be a question. It seems like in 2014, based on the information that Mr. Zastavny gave us, we had a 27% increase. but from 2015 it went down in 2015 to only a 7% increase, and then just to a 13% increase in 2016. And that's not unusual for any business. So I don't think that's an unusual increase in insurance. I don't believe that it's because we carry retirees. There are a number of reasons that it goes up, and it happens. People that are young do get sick, and then they have claims, and that has happened, and we know that. So to point this out, I just want to make sure that I express that I don't think that's something we should isolate in the future. We should just look at our overall cost and try to get an overall plan to make our entire workforce safer, and then negotiate our contracts and negotiate our policies for the city based on that analysis, but not based on one particular segment of the workforce. I do want to also give hats off to Joe Hurt, President Hurt, and the Chief Hedrick, because you all did do a great job of coming together and helping us with the negotiating process, and I hope that you found us pleasant to deal with too. It really did make a difference, more than enough times that you did maybe give up something that in order to get what was most important to you, and it was important to us that you said over and over again that you don't want to hurt the city. And so we appreciate that, and I hope your members appreciate you for the position you took on that. That's all I have to say.
Then I'm going to see how we do. Just all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Abstain.
Motion carries.
Mr. Ellis might want to express why you abstained.
Okay, and yeah, it might be good for me to express why I abstained. I abstained because this is only my third meeting, and with this contract and everything going on, the negotiations with the insurance committee, and I was not in the loop. So I didn't know what was being discussed or what was being done. And I feel that it's better for me to abstain, to not vote either way at this time, than to take a position that could hurt either the city or the firemen. That's my reason for abstaining.
I handed this back to you because I didn't know what we needed to... Do we need to pass this around and sign this?
No, I'm
Okay.
getting
All right.
ready to tell y'all.
Okay.
Put that away.
Wait, Joe, did you...
I was just going to also sing some praises. You guys were great to work with. It was about 7 months longer than I had hoped it was going to take, but I mean, it turned out fine. And, the goal I had from the beginning, and I've said it time and time again, was transparency. And I think both sides were transparent. You guys stood the ground on some items, and you told us why. And whenever you had questions, we tried to supply all the answers. So it was a treat. I mean, it was an experience. But thank you guys very much. Thank you for passing the contract, guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to send this around. There's a place for you all to sign. The negotiation team, I have little yellow stickers marked on which page you sign. So Lisa and Scott Hawkins are on one, Dustin and Councilperson Maple, and then you have a place to sign back here, Lisa, and you have a place to sign up here, okay?
All right.
And Councilperson Ellis, I put down here that you abstained if you want to sign over on the side of the dispenser.
Is everybody fine with moving? Everybody knows where to sign. So we're going to move forward with Sarah Green, 2017 OR 28, and ordinance amending ordinance 2016 OR 11.
I stuck the other one
I
in.
I don't have this in
Sorry.
my packet. So
Well, let Ms. Merkley has a...
Cool.
Uh-oh, must have a bad bag.
It's 23?
If we want to,
23.
Yes, it's amending ordinance 2016 OR 11.
It wasn't in your packet. Did you all not have it in your packet?
I had it.
I don't.
It was in the,
I don't change.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's in the back.
Thank you.
I know, right? I know, right?
You guys don't want to stay?
Was it,
Talking stuff. It'll be fun.
it was
We're going
in,
to talk about roosters.
I would like to make a comment. It was in the email
Yeah, I
packet,
never will. I
I know.
emailed them this afternoon, but
It
Uh,
was.
Huh?
It was. It might have just gotten.
I don't know,
That's okay. I've got it.
I don't know what happened, I apologize.
Don't let it happen again.
Well, it's not.
You better not. That bull crap.
Oh, goodness.
She can't do it anymore.
Sweet.
Bring Kaylee in.
Okay, Sarah.
Can't do it anymore.
So we had discussed last time the amendment of not having livestock in the city, but after some discussion with council members and attorneys, I think it may be putting in the caveat that if it's agriculture, if you're zoned agricultural, that would be appropriate. We're still talking about chickens, 5 chickens on anything under an acre would be allowed in the city, and the same amount of 50 feet from any dwelling would be required for housing those chickens.
Sarah, I have a question to ask you.
Yes, sir.
In what category do you put peacocks?
Peacocks? I didn't know we had any peacocks in the city.
You might not have any now, but I have
Yeah,
been
we
in
do.
cities. We do?
Yeah, I've seen some.
Mhm.
peahens.
I would think
They
under
can be a
fowl.
very noisy bird.
Sounds like a woman screaming for help.
Oh, yeah?
It really does.
Have you gotten calls on that? It kind of sounds.
It does.
Well.
I guess we could put that under
That's
definition,
the,
under fowl. I mean, we could add that.
You want to define fowl as...
I think that would be something that would need to be defined, especially if someone
Based on
calls
the
in and
price.
says, we've got these peacocks and these trees next door, and they're keeping me up, or they're waking me up late at night, so.
Okay.
If we pass it on the second, then we could add that and any other fowl we wish to add before the third reading. Is that,
Sure.
is there a hurry to get this done?
Not necessarily, yeah.
is,
I think they're quite beautiful, but
is
They are
there,
beautiful, but they're noisy.
is there any particular reason why there's the one distinction for property zoned a certain way and then another distinction for number of acreage?
Number of acreage on the chicken?
Like the chickens is no more than 5 if you have less than an acre. But then the others, I mean, if you have, the others, it just says nothing unless you're zoned agricultural.
For the livestock, you mean?
Right.
Well, I think there's a lot of people in the city that raise the chickens for eggs, a lot of families even downtown, so we don't want to,
Right.
we don't want them to not be able to have chickens. But we also don't want, I think sometimes when you get so many chickens, there tends to be a smell associated with that. So I think that's why we're trying to put a limit per acreage on
And
that.
I like the acreage idea, but the section before that doesn't let anybody have turkeys if they're not zoned agricultural. And my fear is that we would find that maybe in the 5th or 6th, not the 5th, the 4th or 6th districts, there may be residentially zoned property that has some of that livestock that is still large parcels that you wouldn't really think about, but if they're not zoned agricultural, will they need to come in for a zoning change? And I don't know if that's the case or not. I haven't looked at it because I didn't see this. But,
I would think, like and I'm not actually sure about this part, but the McCartan Farm, those things, those areas I would believe are probably zoned agricultural for the big ones. But I mean, I kind of feel like it would be on the citizens to ask for a variance if they're going to have things outside of the scope. My personal opinion.
Also technically, I mean, also have to prove it technically, they have them now.
okay, well, that makes sense.
So if I have turkeys in my backyard.
So if I have 6 chickens in Capitol Hills, I'm good.
I mean, from the legal, you have a proof, you got a proof problem. That becomes a legal issue. That you prove it. Technically, from a legal standpoint, they are grandfathered in. This only takes effect upon you decide how many are
Right, and then it doesn't come effect until the mayor signs it. So even though we may all sign it until the mayor signs it, it still don't come into effect.
And I do want to clarify, just for my understanding on the grandfathered end, so people that may have those animals now, those specific individual animals, when those animals die out, are they still grandfathered and then they can have more?
no longer grandfathered.
Okay, so that ends that. That's, okay, what I want to clarify.
Would you say that there's currently a legal remedy for anyone that's experiencing negative externalities from livestock? Do they have an avenue for a case that can be made without this ordinance?
If your neighbor has chickens that are bugging you, what can you do
that's a
about
great
it?
question. You could argue that you could sue civilly if your neighbor was creating a common nuisance. However, Dustin and Les, I would suggest if the chickens were there when you moved in, then you probably don't have a claim, but if the chickens came after you lived there, you might be able to sue them for common nuisance.
But I wouldn't take the case, Larry might take it.
$10,000 retainer. I'll take anything for $10,000.
Well,
We'll start at 10 and we work our way
the
out.
calls I've gotten on chickens is because the coop's not being cleaned, the health issues and the smell, especially when in the summertime when that sun is baking. The smell is what I get complaints on, and then the health issues.
That's the common nuisance point.
And just keep it in perspective, and sir, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe in the prior ordinance that we had, going back to 2006, I believe these provisions, most part, right?
I don't think there was a limit on chickens, which has been a problem.
It was just
The livestock.
the 50 feet
Right.
from a dwelling was the only provision, right? In the
Right.
Former,
So, I mean, and with the nuisance thing, I mean, that is incredibly difficult to navigate, I think.
As a city, we can commence a nuisance cause of action, and it's, not advisable, it's usually the last resort.
It's actually the health department that came out when the numbers.
But that's also incredibly difficult to get done.
Private citizens can sue one another based on a nuisance.
yeah, but
It's a common law claim, and that would alleviate any need for an ordinance.
But that's not what anybody, and when I say anybody, I mean constituents, that's not what they want to see. They want to see, call animal control or call the police department and they should take care of it, not I have to go get a lawyer.
Right.
And
You don't want to write me a $10,000 retainer for each check?
the top 3 calls I get as a council person are people run stop signs, people speed through neighborhoods, and there's chickens down the street. I mean, it's crazy how many chickens there are. But
It really is. It really is.
Calling you about that?
Yes, I get calls all the time.
You get calls all the time about it.
House gets calls all the time.
you can ask Vicky, I probably email her once a year, can you dig the chicken ordinance back out? Because I can't remember what it says.
Well, I know I have
I
a
don't know what the answer is. but-
constituent that has a pet duck, and it was the strangest thing. I was on the Riverside Drive, and ducks walking behind him, and then they picked it up and carried it. But I think this is going to directly affect them.
It's grandfathered in. They
Well.
can still have their duck.
So if you have 5, let's say you have 5, and then you buy 3 more baby chickens, then the original 5 die, is that going to be an issue?
Like law school.
We're really
here's
good.
what we
Trained
do.
for living.
I would suggest that if you could identify chickens and.
Right. Okay.
Who's gonna know whether you replaced one or not?
All right.
I
I think
think
you should have a branding
I didn't know we were
ordinance.
talking
In all
about chickens.
seriousness, I think the issue right now is that Sarah's department really has nothing at her disposal right
Right.
now to do anything when we get these complaints. I mean, she calls me, that's what
So I'll make a motion that we pass on the second reading, and a small group will get together over bacon and eggs to discuss how we can address this further.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to quickly say, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries.
Maybe a PETA issue,
Oh, Lord.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Larry.
We removed the item 13, so moving on. Heather, it's an ordinance transferring certain funds within the same department.
First one is for the Parks Department to, at budget time, we pretty much budgeted all the holiday issues and supplies, and there was nothing in services, so we're having to move some appropriation down to service. And then the rest of them are for the Thunder, which kind of cleans up all the accounting for that.
Is this of R25?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Heather? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion on the first and second.
Got a motion and a second to pass 2017 OR25 in the first and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Heather, an ordinance of additional appropriation in our public hearing was to be on June 5th.
This is for the animal shelter,
Those safety improvements.
that was discussed at the last meeting.
Make a motion
Safety
to
issues.
approve on the first and second.
Second.
Got a motion to pass in the first and second 2017 OR26. Is there any further discussion?
I wasn't here last week, or last meeting when you all discussed this, so I assume that the ordinance is here because those discussions went well.
It was instructed to put it on an additional ordinance
yeah.
at the last
So
meeting.
all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Larry Wilder, do you have a city attorney report for us tonight, other than you're happy to be here and you love us and you...
So, a couple things. I noticed that Chief of Police showed up, and he sat back there and watched you all address and deal with fire contracts. I suspect that's going to be something that's happening probably soon. The police contract will be before you. And I do want to say kind of parenthetically, as most of you all know, I represent the Clarksville Fraternal Order of Police in their effort to try to get the town board of Clarksville to even communicate with them about a contract. So, you know, Mr. Zestani's comments about health insurance and your all's general comments and discussions were very nice to see coming from a board of elected people who have an obligation to deal with contracts. So I think that you made your decisions and you voted on them, and I appreciate it as a citizen, and I appreciate the fact that so much work went into it. Seeing it from a whole different side makes me wonder if maybe I should try to talk to you guys into coming down to Clarksville and hanging out and being in those seats for a little while.
No thanks.
All right, I think the only department we have here is Chief Kavanaugh. Chief, do you have anything?
No, you're not. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all you all do. So do we have any public comment? None. None. All right, then we will move on to council comments. First District Councilperson White.
No comments.
Okay. Second District Councilperson Ed Z.
Yes, I do have a comment. My son, Ethan Zostavny, is here for the first time going to a council meeting.
I saw him. I saw him.
He, first time ever.
That's right, you bought him in his baby carrier.
That's not right. Soon to be a graduate, Jeffersonville High School, and a IU, going to IU, to the Kelly School of Business.
Scholarship to the Kelly School of Business.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll take care of you, brother.
That's it.
Okay. Third District Councilperson Young.
Yeah, the only thing, I think Memorial Day will be occurring before our next council meeting, so everyone enjoy their 3-day weekend. And the good weather, hopefully it stays. Also, thoughts are with Scotty Maples. I did talk to him today. He's feeling better, still recovering, so I'm happy to hear that. And I'm also just very excited about passing the collective bargaining agreement. I had nothing to do with the painstaking negotiations that happened, so I highly commend everyone that did partake in those negotiations. I appreciate all the work you guys put in. Thanks.
Sixth District Councilperson Hawkins.
Two things. One, I'd like to thank everybody that was part of the negotiation team, Dustin, Lisa, Scotty, who's not here, and I hope he gets better soon. Although I do like the extra space, I'd rather have him here than not. And he was with the FOP as well, Scotty, since his line of work is law enforcement. He's very insightful on a lot of things that otherwise we would be in the dark with. So I'd like to thank everybody. And then the second thing is, you got a thing in your packet about Save the Field House, the meeting about Save the Field House. I met with Bill Burns, who runs our parks now, Parks Authority, about this. Hopefully their expectations are pretty high, and he has good reason to believe that it is. So hopefully we can all get behind this and get the public to help this effort to save the field house, which is no small effort. So pay attention to that little pamphlet in your packet, and that's it.
Councilperson at Large, Owen.
I just wanted to echo what Mr. Hawkins said about coming out on Wednesday to our open house, 4 to 7. Everybody is invited. We'll have some light refreshments, give a tour of the facility, explain what our hopes are and how we plan to get where we need to be with the field house. Also, you mark your calendar for Saturday, June 3rd. Hoopsters has generously offered to commit 20% of their sales on June 3rd to the cause. We're going to have some live entertainment that night and hopefully pull some other things together for that event, and it should be a good time.
Do you know what time it's starting?
I do not know what time the entertainment is starting, but Hoopsters is going to donate all day, so you can go lunch or dinner.
Start early.
Yeah.
Start early, go all day.
Yeah, just making it all day marathon event.
Camp out.
Is that all you had?
Yes, ma'am.
Councilperson at Large, Mr. Ellis?
Yes, you know, it took a lot of thought for me about the fire department contract. One of the reasons is because I was on the council when they got collective bargaining rights. I was one of the members of council that passed for them to get collective bargaining rights. But not knowing what the negotiating committee went through, it was hard for me to stand up and say, yes, I will, or no, I won't. So I decided that I would just not cast a vote anyway and not infringe upon the right for them to get that bargaining position. That's all I have.
Councilperson at Large, Samuel, and were you going to comment on this? Okay.
Three things, I believe. One is this Friday night, May 19th, Shakespeare in the Park is being put on. The play is Julius Caesar, and that starts, I believe, at 6 o'clock.
The Jeff High is playing. The
Jeff
band
High
is playing
Jazz
before.
Band, that's right, is playing before.
I think that's
that.
it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then June 1st, it's a Thursday. That's this flyer that I passed out. There's an Arts and Cultural District conversation/meeting. Anybody's invited to come, and there's going to be, I think, at least 3 of these meetings through this year. And we're talking about what is it, the Arts and Cultural District, why is it, and then when is it. And just for your information, the funky art that's on this, the large circle that's going to be the top of the tank, the water tank. And then this is a wrapping around the tank. And so that's the approved art that's supposed to be going on that by the artist Wilfred Sieg. And then the third thing that I have, or the last thing that I have, is we have 13 utility boxes being painted the week, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then there's a rain out date on the next time, 9, 10, and 11. So just FYI, there'll be a lot of activity going on. And got some great submissions for art, and I think it'll be a fun time. So.
The reason why I've been saying the districts, because you'd be surprised how many emails, phone calls, text messages I get, people asking what district I am and who's my council person. So even though we have it up here, I like to, as many times as I can, address that, because you'd be surprised, even they'll say, oh, well, okay, I'll say that's Councilperson Young. Oh, that's right, I voted for her. So that's why I'm trying to get the word out and get people to recognize who's who, and, no.
So, after Nathan discussed what he just discussed, showed the pictures and everything, most of you know this embarked on a 2,842-mile journey across the country with my son, who is a scholarship student at Indiana University, Kelly School of Business MBA program. And I took note that in Ventura Beach, Florida, or Ventura Beach, California, all of the boxes are painted, and it's very much like here. Albuquerque, New Mexico, when we stopped there, I took note of it there, and in San Jose. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't realize that that was such a trendy thing, and, you know, so we're kind of like the West Coast. Yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
I don't know about that. That might be a stretch, but maybe
Okay.
next.
Okay. I had a meeting this past week, and I invited Vice President Samuel along with the Jeffersonville Township Library. I'm going to have Vicki, when I get in this week, I'll have her scan this in and email it to everyone. They're going to be doing it's actually proposing a $3 million project. They have to do proposed bond project. $2 million will be going to the Clarksville branch, and $1 million will be going to the Main Street Library. They're going to do like a commons, it's called a maker space at the main library, and which I got some information on that. I'll send that all out to you. I just want you all to be aware, because the main library is in the city of Jeffersonville, and a matter of fact, it's in Dustin's district. But they go to the county council for approval of their budget, and they will go to the county council for approval of this bond. But there'll be some chatter about it. I'm sure they'll be doing some news media coverage. So I just wanted you all, in case you're in contact, especially Dustin, you all are aware of what they're proposing to do. I, for one, I was thrilled for their forward thinking, and they're really going to cater to adding some more computers and giving some students that they're falling on hard times, their family, and as you all are aware, if we're blessed to be able to afford internet, but when a family's struggling, first thing to go is they don't have internet. And with these Chromebooks and the things having to do with their homework, everything's online, and so I'll have a detailed thing here I will send out to you all. Huh? Oh, sure, you can look at that. I just want to let you know that I did have that meeting, and it was brought up earlier. Mr. Merkley, I don't know how many lawsuits, none of us know. Should we have an executive session so you can bring us up to speed on the lawsuits, or you don't think it's a concern right now, or, huh?
We don't have many, that's boring.
Okay, well, since there's not that many, okay, we can discuss that. I just didn't. I know our insurance usually handles some things, but, you just hear things here and there. I do believe that is all that I had, so if I would have a motion for adjourn.
Second?